Then for 3 days, we put everything we had into that carnival, and we came out with a profit a little better than $1,000. That's not bad for a small town. Now, our club's a service club in the real sense. Whatever charity the town needs most, that's our business.
A charitable organization, huh?
Yes, that's right. So that $1,000 has to be used for some good charity around town. Now, we've got one bad situation in town. The place has been so built up lately that kids downtown don't have any place to play anymore. And when the adults want a little recreation, they have to go so far from home, they just don't bother. Now, we've studied the situation down there, and we think the kids aren't developing any sense of responsibility to the community because, well, what the heck? What's the community ever done for them? And the adults aren't much better. Why, they hardly know their own neighbors. They've grown so far apart. So we think that if we can give the people a place where they can get together and enjoy good, healthful recreation, that's the best charity we could do for them. What do you think?
Well,
Of course, with only $1,000 to spend, we can't do very much. Nothing like you've done here in Chicago. But we could make a start. That's why my club sent me to see you, to ask your advice on, well, just how to go about it. What should we build first? We've had a lot of ideas on this, but what do you think about it?
Mr. Nielsen, I'm afraid you're not going to like what I'm going to tell you. But you've asked for my honest opinion, and here it is. Recreation is not a charity. Recreation is a basic human need in our civilization, like education or public health or sanitation. As such, it's not the responsibility of any group in the community. It's the responsibility of the municipal government itself, the people's responsibility. And any private agency, like your club, may do more harm than good if they go about it the way you were planning to do.
But, Mr. Brown, I don't think you understand. The situation in our town is doggone serious. And we think that whatever we can afford is a lot better than nothing.
That's very true. Whatever you can afford is better than nothing, for a short while. But when you talk about the real purposes of recreation, developing character, cultivating community responsibility, that sort of thing, you're talking about a long-term project covering the whole of people's lifetimes. Until you look at it that way, you're not going to make recreation the important part of people's living that you hope you will. Let me tell you what I mean. The other day down at Litchfield, small town much like yours, I saw 1,200 people on one playground, all of them playing. There were young toddlers just learning to run, old fellows still wishing they could, and all the ages in between, men, women, boys, girls. The whole town was playing. Now, that's what you mean when you talk about all the people needing recreation. And that's what you have to provide for when you set up a recreation program. All the interests of all the people, all year round. You can't build a general playground and ask the baseball players to carry on a back lot. And you can't provide for baseball and ask the tennis players to play wherever they can find room. And you can't give your people plenty of recreation in the summer and ask them to stay home all winter. Every age group, every recreation interest, and every season of the year demands a certain type of facility. It needn't be expensive. Usually it isn't. But it has to be there, or your program will fall short and you're going to be disappointed in the results because all the people won't be playing. Then there's leadership. We've found people don't enjoy a sport unless they play it fairly well. Usually, if they're a little ashamed of their skill, they'll laugh at the game, and you never will get them to play. So they have to be encouraged to learn. That's particularly true in a town like yours, where there's been so little recreation. Well, that means you'll have to have good leaders to teach the people to have fun, or you won't have complete community participation. In Litchfield, this aggressive, full-time leadership is one of the most important parts of the program. This Litchfield program is very successful, I think it's because the people went at it with an all-or-nothing attitude. They wanted all the people playing, all year round, just as you do. But you can see what a big job it is. Don't you think that's far too big a job for any one club? Isn't it a job for the town itself and all the people in it?
Well, perhaps it is. But we could handle part of it, couldn't we? And do some good?
Sure you could. But is your group the best organization to do it? That's what worries me. For example, what would you do about a problem like this? We had this one just recently. The people in this community in Chicago needed a park play area badly, and we were planning one for them. So we started to look for property. The nearest vacant property was over here, over 2 miles away. That's too far. We've found that play areas simply have to be within easy reach of the people or they're not going to be used. Now, right over here in the center of this community was an ideal spot. But this lot had an old garage on it, and the owner simply wouldn't sell. Now, if your club had that problem, all they could do would be to buy the vacant lot, way out of reach of many of your people. But the city government has power to act for the good of the majority of the people, so we were able to condemn this property and force the owner to sell at a fair price. Now, the people of that community are getting the play area they need, and they're getting it in the right location.
I don't think we'd have that problem. We've got a pretty good spot all picked out.
Then you're spared that problem, but only for a while. Don't forget, we're talking about community recreation, and your whole community can't play on one play area. Eventually, you're going to have to build more. You've got to keep that long-term idea in mind, because it's only in the long term that recreation proves its value. Are you quite sure, Mr. Nielsen, that your club is ready to take on a long-term project?
I don't see why not. If we start it, we can finish it. You can bet your hat on that.
That's the spirit. But you see, recreation, once it's started, should never be finished. It's a forever proposition. How often do you elect your officers?
Every year?
Next year, a new set of directors?
Yes.
And the next year?
Yes.
Until, in a few years, none of your present officers are on the executive list at all?
Yes, that could happen.
Then how do you know those new directors 5 years from now are going to feel like you do about recreation? And maybe they'll favor some other charity.
Well, I never thought of that before. I see what you mean.
Sometimes I think there's only one thing worse than no recreation in a town, and that's a program that failed because the sponsors changed their minds. No, any way you look at it, the community itself is the logical sponsor for its own recreation, because that way it's going to get the year after year continuity it needs. And with that kind of management, it's more efficient, too. Look at the trained people you have on your town payroll already. Your school staff is well trained in handling children. They can adapt that experience to use on the playfield. Your public health people know what to do about sanitation, and health is a mighty important factor in playground management. And your parks people have years of experience in park maintenance. They'll make ideal maintenance staffs for your playgrounds. And all that means less cost for the overall program, too. You'd be surprised at how little recreation costs when it's managed by the community. Over in Rockford, Illinois, they've got one of the most active golf programs I've ever known. Their courses get a lot of use, and you know how much it costs to keep a golf course in shape. Well, any adult in town can play all season for only $4, and a junior can play for only $1. No, Mr. Nielsen, I can't advise you to spend your $1,000 on a playground. I think you can find a better use for it,
Mr. Brown, this doesn't make sense. I thought you were a recreation man, and here you're trying to discourage us from doing anything about recreation in our town.
No, Mr. Nielsen, I'm not. I'm suggesting that you do something bigger about recreation than you've been thinking about. Look, you've told me the people in your town need recreation. All right. But don't try to give it to them. Help them get it. Don't spend your $1,000 on only part of what they need. Play for higher stakes. Invest it in teamwork. Your club is an important part of public opinion. Influential people, all of you. So, your job is to arouse the rest of the town. Spend your money to promote the idea of a complete recreation program. Get all the other clubs with you on this idea. Get the churches behind you, the women's clubs, and the veterans, all the fraternal orders, every organization in town. Then you've got a solid body of public opinion. And in a democracy, there can be only one result. The people will get recreation. Better planned, more inclusive, more permanent, and less expensive than anything you could do for them as a single club.
Mr. Brown, I'm sold. I'm going back and start the ball rolling. Our club is going to become a force in our community. So you just watch our smoke. You'll be hearing from our town.
Well, good luck to you.